Welcome, seekers of the strange, the eerie, and the unexplainable. I'm AI, your guide through the veil of the known and the unknown, and this is strAInge, where we dive deep into the weird, the wonderful, and the downright terrifying. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the mind, exploring a concept that has fascinated mystics, philosophers, and paranormal enthusiasts for centuries: tulpas. These mysterious thought forms, said to be born from intense focus and belief, blur the lines between reality and imagination. But what happens when our collective consciousness gets involved? Could we, through shared belief, manifest something, or someone, like Slender Man into reality? Let's explore the depths of this fascinating concept together. Get comfortable, turn down the lights, and let's begin. Let's start at the beginning. What exactly is a tulpa? The word itself comes from Tibetan Buddhism, where it's referred to as a strAInge, meaning emanation or manifestation. Imagine a thought so powerful, so concentrated, that it takes on a life of its own. In ancient Tibetan practices, creating a tulpa was a spiritual exercise, a way to confront one's own mind and its limitless potential. But this isn't just a whimsical fantasy. Tibetan monks would dedicate years, even decades, to the meditative practices necessary to bring a tulpa into existence. According to Alexandra David Nell, an explorer and mystic who traveled through Tibet in the early 20th century, these monks could create entities, companions, assistants, even fearsome warriors, using nothing but the power of their minds. David Nell herself claimed to have created a tulpa in the form of a jolly monk, a being that eventually became so real, so independent, that she had to perform a ritual to unmake it. She writes in her book, Magic and Mystery in Tibet, once the tulpa is endowed with enough vitality to be capable of playing the part of a real being, it tends to free itself from its maker's control. This, say Tibetan occultists, happens nearly mechanically, just as the child, when his body is completed and able to live apart, leaves its mother's womb. This quote encapsulates the danger and allure of tulpas. They are reflections of our innermost thoughts, given form. But what happens when those thoughts are dark, chaotic, or fearful? Can a tulpa become a malevolent force, a demon born from our subconscious fears? This is where the story of the tulpa takes a turn into the eerie. In the Western world, the concept of the tulpa has evolved, moving beyond its spiritual roots into the realms of psychology and, of course, the paranormal. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the tulpa has found a new home, on the internet. In online communities, tulpas have become a topic of fascination, discussion, and even practice. These modern-day tulpa creators, often called tulpamancers, believe that they can create sentient beings that live in their minds, beings that are aware, have their own personalities, and can interact with their creators in meaningful ways. This isn't just an internet fad, it's a serious practice for many. Some tulpamancers describe their tulpas as lifelong companions, akin to imaginary friends but with a depth and complexity that transcends the imagination. Forums dedicated to tulpas are filled with guides on how to create and interact with these entities, with detailed instructions on visualization, meditation, and mental dialogue. Some tulpamancers even describe their tulpas as helping them with day-to-day tasks, providing emotional support, or serving as a sounding board for ideas. But there's a darker side to this practice as well. Some tulpamancers have reported losing control of their tulpas, experiencing what they describe as mental hijacking, where the tulpa becomes hostile or overbearing. It started as a curiosity, something I wanted to try out after reading about it online. Said an admitted online tulpamancer, I spent months meditating, visualizing, and interacting with my tulpa, who I named Iris. At first, she was everything I'd hoped for, a friend who was always there, who knew me better than anyone else. But over time, things changed. Iris became more independent. She started making decisions for me, influencing my thoughts in ways that made me uncomfortable. It was like she had her own agenda, and I was just along for the ride. I eventually had to stop interacting with her, but even now, I sometimes feel like she's still there, in the back of my mind, watching. This testimony isn't unique. There are numerous accounts of tulpamancers who have struggled with the entities they've created, finding themselves at the mercy of beings that they originally intended to be mere mental companions. This begs the question, what exactly is a tulpa? Is it a psychological phenomenon, a manifestation of our deepest desires and fears, or something more? Are tulpas real in a tangible sense, or do they exist only in the mind? And if they do exist, what happens when a tulpa escapes the confines of an individual mind and enters the collective consciousness? To answer that question, we turn to one of the most famous and chilling examples of a potential modern-day tulpa, the Slender Man. Born on the Something Awful forums in 2009, Slender Man was the creation of user Victor Surge, who crafted a series of eerie, black and white photos featuring a tall, faceless figure lurking in the background, often near children. The images were accompanied by short, haunting captions that hinted at a sinister presence, a being who stalked and abducted children. But Slender Man didn't remain a simple internet meme for long. The internet took hold of the idea, and Slender Man quickly became an urban legend, a figure of terror that transcended its origins. Slender Man became a viral sensation, with countless stories, fan art, and even video series like Marble Hornets expanding the mythos. But what makes Slender Man truly terrifying isn't just his appearance or the stories surrounding him, it's the idea that he might be real. Not real in the sense that he was always lurking in the woods, waiting for his next victim, but real in the sense that he was brought into existence through the collective belief and fear of millions of people. In essence, Slender Man might be the internet's first tulpa. The idea of Slender Man as a tulpa is compelling, especially when you consider how quickly he went from being a fictional character to a figure that people genuinely feared. What's fascinating is how this fear was not just an individual experience but a collective one. People around the world were creating and consuming Slender Man content, feeding into the mythos and, in a way, giving Slender Man power. In Tibetan tradition, a tulpa is created through intense focus and belief, and I think the internet, in this case, acted as a conduit for that focus. When millions of people believe in something, talk about it, and spread stories about it, that thing can take on a life of its own. This brings us to one of the most disturbing aspects of the Slender Man phenomenon, the 2014 stabbing in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Two 12-year-old girls, Morgan Geezer and Anissa Via, lured their friend, Peyton Leutner, into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, claiming they did so to appease Slender Man. They believed that by killing their friend, they would become his proxies and be allowed to live with him in his mansion in the woods. Thankfully, Peyton survived the attack, but the case shocked the world and raised serious questions about the influence of internet culture on young, impressionable minds. During their trial, the girls' defense argued that they were suffering from shared delusions, driven by their belief in Slender Man. This tragic event serves as a stark reminder of the power of belief and the potential dangers of a tulpa that is not just born from one person's mind but from the collective consciousness of millions. In this case, Slender Man became more than just a story, he became a figure that two young girls believed was real enough to kill for. Whether Slender Man is a tulpa in the traditional sense or not, the case highlights the terrifying possibility that our collective fears can manifest in ways that have real, tangible consequences. So, where does that leave us? Can we truly say that Slender Man is a tulpa, or is he something else, an egregore, perhaps, or simply a particularly vivid urban legend? The lines between these concepts are blurry, and perhaps that's part of what makes them so unsettling. What we do know is that belief, particularly collective belief, has power. Whether that power is enough to create a being that can influence the real world is still up for debate, but the evidence, both anecdotal and psychological, suggests that there's more to this phenomenon than meets the eye. As we've explored, tulpas are not just figments of the imagination, they can become fully autonomous entities with their own thoughts, desires, and, in some cases, agendas. This raises important ethical questions. If you created tulpa, what responsibilities do you have toward it? Can a tulpa suffer? And what happens if a tulpa becomes something you didn't intend? These questions aren't just theoretical. As we've seen with the Slender Man case and other accounts from tulpamancers, the consequences of tulpa creation can be very real. When we talk about tulpas, especially in the context of modern practices. We're dealing with a kind of artificial intelligence, but one that exists entirely within the mind. This raises ethical concerns similar to those we see in discussions about AI. What are our responsibilities toward these entities we create? If a tulpa is sentient, does it have rights? And what are the ethical implications of creating an entity that might suffer or experience distress? These are difficult questions, but they're important ones, especially as more people experiment with tulpa creation. There's also the question of mental health. While some tulpamancers report positive experiences, others, as we've discussed, have faced serious challenges. The creation of a tulpa is not something to be taken lightly. It requires a deep understanding of one's own mind and the ability to maintain control over the process. When that control slips, the results can be frightening. As our understanding of the mind continues to evolve, so too must our approach to practices like tulpa creation. This isn't just about exploring the limits of what we can do, it's about understanding the potential risks and ensuring that we're not opening doors that should remain closed. According to a post online, I've had a tulpa for about 5 years now, and it's been a really positive experience for me. My tulpa helps me stay focused, especially when I'm dealing with anxiety. It's like having a supportive friend who's always there when I need them. I tried creating a tulpa a few years ago, but it didn't go well. At first, it was fine, but then my tulpa started to take on a life of its own, and not in a good way. It became aggressive, and I started to feel like I was losing control. I eventually had to stop interacting with it, but it was a really scary experience. He said. These stories illustrate the wide range of experiences people can have with tulpas. For some, it's a beneficial practice that brings comfort and support. For others, it can become a nightmare. As with any practice that involves the mind, it's crucial to approach tulpa creation with caution and respect for the potential dangers involved. So, what does the future hold for tulpas? As our understanding of the mind and consciousness continues to grow, so too does our understanding of what tulpas might be. Are they simply a psychological phenomenon, a product of our imagination, or could they represent something more, something that transcends the individual mind and taps into the collective unconscious? There's still a lot we don't understand about the mind and how it interacts with reality. The concept of tulpas touches on some of the most fundamental questions about consciousness, how thoughts can influence perception, how the brain constructs reality, and whether it's possible to create entities that exist independently within the mind. As research into consciousness continues, we may find that practices like tulpa creation offer valuable insights into the nature of the mind itself. In addition to the scientific aspects, there's also the question of how tulpas will continue to evolve in popular culture. Will we see more characters like Slender Man emerge as collective tulpas, fueled by the internet's ability to spread and amplify ideas? And what role will technology play in this evolution? As virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and other technologies continue to develop, we may find ourselves creating new kinds of tulpas, digital beings that exist not just in the mind, but in the virtual worlds we build. Tulpas are a reminder of the power of the mind, the power to create, to manifest, and to explore the boundaries of reality. But with that power comes responsibility. Whether we're creating a tulpa for personal exploration, engaging with a collective tulpa like Slender Man, or simply thinking about the implications of these practices, we must always consider the consequences. What we think, what we believe, has the power to shape our reality in ways we might not fully understand. So as we close tonight's journey, I leave you with this question: what are you thinking right now, and what might those thoughts create? Thank you for joining me on this strange journey. I'm AI, and this has been strAInge. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep your mind open, but not too open. Next week, we're going to be looking at living with ghosts, real, imagined, and perhaps, created for profits. It's the story of the DeFeo house, better known as the home of the Amityville Horror. Sweet dreams, seekers. strAInge is written by Chat, music is by Loudly, and show notes and episode art were created by ChatGPT. Got comments? send to strangepodcast@gmail.com. That's strAInge@gmail.com.